It's a great time to be a fan of the Metroid franchise, as many people, like myself, are absolutely elated with the Metroid Prime Remaster. The thing is, many of us have a different experience as we play the game. The Metroid Prime series is incredibly dense with a tremendous amount of story and lore that isn't exactly spoon-fed to the audience. If you're not reading all the log entries, if you haven't read the Metroid manga, and you haven't played the other Metroid games, then you're probably progressing through Metroid Prime with somewhat of a vague understanding of what is actually going on. So with that being said, I did all of those things so you don't have to. So here's my in-depth explanation of the story of Metroid Prime, and obviously this video will contain tons of storyline spoilers for the entire Metroid franchise. First off, when does Metroid Prime take place? The mainline Metroid series is the 2D side-scrollers that started with the very first Metroid game in 1986. Since then, there have been a total of 4 other mainline Metroid games in the series, with Metroid Dread being the most recent one, both in actuality and chronologically. Although the Metroid Prime series isn't counted in the mainline series total, it is still considered canon, and takes place within the franchise chronologically. Some may consider the Prime games as spin-offs to the Metroid 2D series, but another way of looking at it is that the Prime series is really just Metroid 1.5, as the entire Prime trilogy takes place after Metroid Zero Mission, and before Metroid 2 Return of Samus. This has tons of implications on the Prime storyline and on Samus's character. Here's some of the more significant ones. Since the Prime series is basically Metroid 1.5, the X-Parasite from Fusion and Dread is yet to be introduced in the games, and has not appeared in the Prime series. Naturally, the Samus in Prime does not have Metroid DNA in her yet, because that was injected into her as a way to fight off the X-Parasite that infected her. And lastly, Prime Samus has no idea yet that she has Thoha tribe DNA, and that Ravenbeak is her surrogate father of sorts. Basically, it was a much simpler time for Samus in the Prime series. So now that we know when the Prime story takes place, let's get to our next question. Who is Samus Aran? Samus was only 3 years old when we first meet her on Star Colony K-21. Her parents were Rod and Virginia Aran, and her father was one of the chief managers of the Star Colony's workforce. The workforce was responsible for mining an extremely valuable and useful mineral, called a fluorotite. This mineral was highly coveted by many different species, including the Chozo, who are a very intelligent race of bird-like people, and it was also coveted by the space pirates, who are led by their commander Ridley, who is an evil space dragon of sorts. Ridley and the space pirates attacked K-21 in an attempt to steal the fluorotite. Amidst the chaos, both of Samus's parents were killed by the space pirates. After the Chozo witnessed the destruction of K-21, they took in Samus and raised her as one of their own on planet Zebes. The Chozo then realized that Samus's human life could not last long in the harsh environment of planet Zebes. Due to this, they infused their Chozo DNA with Samus in order for her to thrive in their brutal atmosphere. As a result, Samus became supernaturally athletic, strong, and quick as the years went on. In her youth, she also received exclusive training from the Chozo, and was given a special suit for her upcoming responsibilities. The Chozo viewed themselves as wise guardians whose duty was to protect and oversee the galaxy. Now that Samus was one of their own, they bestowed this same duty onto Samus. Eventually, she leaves the Chozo's care and accepts her purpose and role as a protector. After many adventures and battles later, we now find a much older and battle-tested Samus, heading into the start of the Metroid Prime trilogy. At that point, she's a bounty hunter who often accepts assignments from the Galactic Federation. Although Nintendo gives Samus the title of a bounty hunter, they have since clarified that Samus is more of a mercenary than a traditional bounty hunter. Unlike Star Wars' Boba Fett, Samus doesn't do her job simply for payment or self-satisfaction, but instead, she's been described as a more altruistic person, someone with a motherly loving care for both humanity and various forms of life in general. Essentially, she's an adventurer with a heart of gold. With that being said, Samus is a very independent thinker, and has been known to push back not just the Galactic Federation, but authority figures in general, as she very rarely obeys orders that conflict with her moral convictions. So now that we have a pretty good idea of who Samus is, let's get to our next question. What is the setup for Metroid Prime? Well, 10 years before the opening sequence of Metroid Prime, Samus fought the space pirates' hordes on planet Zebes, and she descended to the very core of the space pirates' stronghold, where she exterminated the energy-based parasites known as the Metroids, and destroyed the lord and controller of the space pirates, Mother Brain. Although Samus killed the space pirates on planet Zebes, orbiting the planet was several space pirate ships. After Mother Brain was defeated, those ships escaped and scattered throughout space. The space pirates were angry about the defeat of Mother Brain and were determined to find resources and rebuild their forces in order to get revenge on Samus, who they specifically referred to as the Hunter. So finally, years after the battle on Zebes, Samus discovers that there is a possible space pirate colony on Talon 4. Orbiting Talon 4 is a ship that could be one of the space pirate ships that escaped Zebes. Samus proceeds to investigate that space frigate, and this is where the Metroid Prime game officially begins. As Samus gets further into the space frigate, she begins to realize that space pirates are not only on this ship, but they've been doing a lot of dangerous experimentations. As Samus travels through the frigate, it becomes evident that some of the experimentations went horribly wrong for the space pirates, as it appears that something from within injured and killed many of the pirates. At the core of the level, Samus discovers one of the experiments, the Parasite Queen. Samus doesn't know it yet, but the Parasite Queen was genetically enhanced by a substance known to the pirates as Phazon. More on Phazon in just a bit. After Samus defeats the Parasite Queen, it collapses into the frigate's reactor core. This initiates an escape sequence for Samus, as the entire frigate is getting ready to explode. As our bounty hunter is escaping the ship, to her surprise, she comes across her old nemesis, the space pirate leader and the one responsible for the death of her parents, Ridley. Samus had previously defeated Ridley in the depths of Norfair on planet Zebes. The pirates then recovered Ridley's body and resuscitated him by converting him into a cyborg. He's now known as Meta Ridley. According to space pirate logs, this conversion drastically increased his strength, mobility, and offensive capability. Meta Ridley escapes the exploding frigate, and she follows him all the way to Talon 4, where the space pirate colony is located. So now that we've explained the setup of the game, let's address a couple of things. First, what is Phazon? It's basically a superorganism capable of mutating and corrupting any living organisms that it comes into contact with. To most living creatures, it's extremely deadly to the touch, but creatures strong enough to withstand the substance often become energized, mutated, erratic, and extremely aggressive. Due to its energy-producing properties and its transformative tendencies, this superorganism was highly appealing to the space pirates, as they initially found the substance on Talon 4 when they detected high levels of radiation coming from the planet. The source of all of the Phazon is a sentient planet off in the very distant space, known as Phase. It's a planet of pure Phazon, and Phase has a will of its own, as it desires the multiplication of itself throughout the universe. This makes Planet Phase, in a sense, the ultimate antagonist of the Metroid Prime trilogy, although the planet is never seen in gameplay until Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. The way Phase corrupts other planets and potentially galaxies is with its giant Leviathan seeds. These artificial meteorites grow on the planet Phase and reach maturity at 100 years old. Once the Leviathan is fully grown, it is sent out by the planet itself, destined for collision with other planets. When one of these Leviathan seeds crashes into another planet, the corruption begins, as it slowly starts to destroy the planet's entire ecosystem. Eventually, the Phazon's corruption becomes so powerful that it ultimately transforms the planet into a clone of Planet Phase. Again, this is the ultimate goal of Phase, to see itself in every planet, in every galaxy, everywhere. So now that we understand Phazon, let's carry on. What is Talon 4? Talon 4 was once a beautiful and lush planet filled with all kinds of natural habitat. Long ago, Talon 4 was chosen as a dwelling place by Chozo from Elysia, who desired to regain their spirituality. These Chozo abandoned their technology and instead embraced simple lives, living off of the planet's natural resources. For a while, the Chozo lived there happily and peacefully. But that time immediately came to an end when a meteor struck the planet. Tragically, Talon 4 was hit by a Leviathan seed and created a giant crater on the planet. The meteor struck 50 years before Samus ever set foot on the planet, and it immediately began its corruption process. The Chozo referred to the Phazon as the Great Poison, and many of them began to flee their home that was once a paradise. All of the Chozo who stayed eventually died from the poison, and even some of the dead Chozo were possessed by the Phazon, as they return in the game to fight Samus as Chozo ghosts. Throughout the game, Samus discovers many Chozo lores, which are documentations from the Chozo as they were experiencing the fall of their civilization. In these documentations, the Chozo didn't just speak about the Great Poison, but they also spoke about what they called the Worm. They described it as such: the worm, born from parasites, nurtured in a poison womb. The worm grows, devouring from within, until the world begins to rot. The words of the seers have come to pass, for there, in the depths of the world, the ravenous worm lurks and feeds. From the stars it came, blighting Talon with its great poison. We can but watch as the worm grows, watch and wait. This dreadful and terrifying worm that they speak of is none other than the Metroid Prime, a monstrous Metroid that's been growing and feeding on Phazon ever since it arrived on the Leviathan many years earlier. The Metroid Prime resides in the crater where the Leviathan impacted, commonly referred to as the Impact Crater. Now, amidst all this catastrophe, the Chozo had the gift of foresight and had visions of a coming savior who would destroy the poison and the worm and restore Talon 4 to its original glory. The various Chozo lores indicate that they had very specific visions of Samus, as they went as far as specifying her appearance and gender. With this underlying glimmer of hope, the Chozo sealed the Impact Crater, keeping the worm inside and delaying the spread of the poison to the rest of the planet. Then they hid the 12 Chozo artifacts throughout the world, which are the keys to opening the Impact Crater. Their hope was that the savior would arrive, recover the keys, and enter the crater and destroy the worm. Obviously, this would take some time, but Samus was very happy to oblige. She first defeated the rivaled Ridley once again, and then focused on the worm below the surface. With the keys now in her possession, she entered the crater, and when Samus fought and defeated the Metroid Prime, it revealed its true form, which she could then only harm by weaponizing the Phazon against it. Once Samus finally defeated the core essence of Metroid Prime, a struggle ensued. As Prime was about to explode, it grabbed hold of Samus in an attempt to take her down as well. But just then, Prime stripped Samus of her Phazon suit, which she had acquired from the Omega Pirate. Samus then escaped as quickly as possible, and once she reached her ship, she looked on victoriously as the temple, the Impact Crater, and presumably the worm all lie in shambles. The poison was destroyed, just as prophesied. The game was over. Samus had won. For now. Just after Samus triumphantly leaves the atmosphere of Talon 4, we revisit a very dark and gloomy Impact Crater with a lone pool of remaining Phazon. Out of the Phazon outstretches a hand. It was Samus's Phazon suit, now possessed by the essence of Metroid Prime. This was the birth of Dark Samus, the main villain of the Metroid Prime trilogy. And this is the conclusion of the main story threads within the first Metroid Prime. There's a lot more lore to unpack, and of course there's the stories of the other Metroid games, but I'll tackle those in future videos. Did you guys enjoy it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more Metroid and Zelda content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.